I stand frozen behind my father's office door, my breath caught in my throat like a trapped bird. The familiar sense of pine and cedar that usually comfort me now turn my stomach as his words filter through the crack. Transfer 25% of the shares to Vanessa. We need to finalize this in 6 weeks, before Cecily's birthday. My father's voice carries the same authoritative tone he uses during board meetings. Confident, unyielding. The voice of a man who expects no resistance. And you're certain the original can't be contested? The attorney's question makes my blood run cold. Old man Armstrong made it conditional, but we've documented everything. Cecily hasn't met the leadership metrics. She's a worker, not an executive. The blood drains from my face so quickly I have to grip the doorframe to steady myself. My calloused fingers press against the polished wood, leaving faint smudges from the sawdust still clinging to my work clothes. Through the narrow opening, I can see my father's immaculate desk, not a paper out of place. Nothing like the organized chaos of my station downstairs. Grandfather promised me those shares. My heart pounds against my ribs, each beat a hammer strike. The room tilts slightly as I process what I'm hearing. What if she challenges it? The attorney asks. Dad laughs, the sound sharp enough to cut. Challenge what? We've kept her in operations for a reason. No leadership experience, no client relationships, no financial training. The board will see it our way. I press my palm against my chest, trying to slow my racing heart. My lungs can't seem to pull in enough air. 30% of timberline forestry, my inheritance, my birthright being stolen right from under me, handed to my sister who hasn't spent a single day on the mill floor. I back away silently. Decades of moving through forests making my retreat soundless despite the roaring in my ears. The stairs down to the sawmill feel endless. Each step carries me further from the life I thought I had secured, the future my grandfather promised. The familiar symphony of machinery greets me as I push through the double doors to the production floor. The massive bandsaw screams through a Douglas fir. The planer whines as it smooths rough boards. The conveyors rumble under the weight of fresh timber. Sounds that once represented my heritage now feel hollow, mocking. I nod mechanically to Miguel at the sorting station as I pass, unable to form words. He's worked here 30 years longer than I've been alive and can grade lumber by touch alone. The employees respect me. They know I understand every inch of this operation. But upstairs, where decisions are made, my expertise means nothing. My mind drifts back to when I was 12, grandfather taking me into the forest at dawn. The memory is so vivid I can almost feel the morning dew soaking through my jeans as we hiked between towering trees. Look up, Cecily, he'd said, his weathered hand on my shoulder. What do you see? Kai. Trees? I'd answered, uncertain. He'd chuckled, the sound warm like sunlight filtering through branches. Legacy. 5 generations of Armstrongs have tended these forests. Your father sees dollar signs. Vanessa sees nothing at all. But you, he'd squeezed my shoulder, you're the only one who truly respects the craft. I'd beamed under his approval, soaking it in like a sapling in spring rain. His hands strong, cracked from decades of work, had shown me how to read the grain, how to judge which trees were ready and which needed time. Forestry isn't just harvesting, it's stewardship. Forestry isn't just harvesting. Months before he passed, he'd called me to his home office. His once powerful frame had shrunk, but his eyes remained sharp. You'll have to prove yourself, Cecily, but I've made provisions. When you turn 35, if you've met the metrics I've outlined, 30% of timberline becomes yours. I'd protested, not because I didn't want the responsibility, but because I knew how my parents would react. They'd always favored Vanessa. She's smarter and more creative. Mom would say when comparing our report cards, even though mine showed straight A's. You're just a worker, Dad would add, somehow making it sound like an insult rather than recognizing the value in what I did. The memory fades as I reach my small office tucked beside the kiln room. I close the door and sink into my chair, the worn leather conforming to my body like an old friend. Evening finds me in my small apartment across town, pacing between the kitchenette and living room. The space is modest, all I need when I spend 14 hours a day at the mill. I pull out the keepsake box from under my bed, fingers trembling slightly as I lift the lid. Beneath photographs and childhood treasures lies a sealed envelope. My grandfather's will, the copy he insisted I keep. I break the seal for the first time, scanning the legal language until I find what I'm looking for. Upon reaching 35 years of age, Provided operational efficiency metrics are maintained above industry standard for 3 consecutive years, Cecily Armstrong shall receive 30% voting shares in Timberline Forestry LLC. The words blur as tears fill my eyes. Not from sadness, but from a fury that's been building for years. Every weekend worked while Vanessa traveled Europe. Every idea stolen by my father and presented as his own. Every achievement attributed to management in company newsletters. I set the paper down and straightened my shoulders. In 6 weeks, I turned 35. For 10 years, I've sacrificed everything for this company, believing my time would come. I've been silent too long, compliant too long. Not anymore. I pick up my phone and make a call I should have made years ago. It's time to fight for what's rightfully mine. That night, I don't sleep at all. I scan the ancient terminal for the 5th time tonight, squinting at the financial records from last quarter. The office building stands empty except for the security guard dozing in the lobby, and my small desk lamp casting shadows across decades-old filing cabinets. 3 a.m. is the only time I can search without someone peering over my shoulder. The spreadsheet flickers on screen as I scroll down to production efficiency reports. My fingers hover over the keyboard as my eyes catch on a familiar achievement. Increased downstream efficiency by 18% while reducing waste by 22%. My project. My blood, sweat, and weekends for 6 straight months. But there beside it, project lead, Vanessa Armstrong. A laugh bubbles up, bitter as oversteeped coffee. I take a screenshot, add it to my growing collection. Not the first lie I've uncovered tonight. Not even the 10th. The screen blurs as my eyes water from exhaustion. Or maybe it's something else entirely. 3 years of quarterly reports tell the same story. Everything I've built, every improvement I've sweated over, credited to others, primarily Vanessa. The evidence forms a pattern as clear as growth rings on old-growth pine. I close my eyes and see myself hunched over production schedules while Vanessa posted Instagram photos from Paris, Madrid, Santorini. My calloused hands flying over calculations while she held champagne flutes at business school galas. All funded by the company by my labor. The memory of last February hits me like a physical blow. Jenna's wedding invitation still sits in my keepsake box. The regretfully declines box checked after Dad insisted I handle the emergency mill shutdown. 20 years of friendship, and I missed seeing my best friend walk down the aisle because a bearing had failed on the main saw. That's just your job, Cecily. Mom had said when I called, voice cracking with disappointment. Just my job, never Vanessa's. I shut down the computer and pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes. The betrayal isn't new, it's just finally documented. In black and white, irrefutable. Morning comes too quickly. I force myself through the mill floor inspection, nodding mechanically as Miguel shows me a great improvement on the oak shipment. When my phone buzzes with a meeting notification, I trudge upstairs like a condemned prisoner. The conference room smells of leather and my father's sandalwood cologne. Through the glass walls, I watch him gesturing expansively to 3 men, in suits, board members, and advisors I recognize from quarterly meetings. The restructuring gives us flexibility, Dad says, not noticing me in the doorway. Cecily runs operations smoothly, but Vanessa brings vision. When we shift controlling interest next month, we'll position for aggressive expansion without the traditional constraints. One advisor glances toward the door, spots me. Dad turns, his smile never reaching his eyes. Ah, Cecily, we were just discussing future planning. Nothing for you to worry about. Nothing for me to worry about. The same dismissal I've heard since childhood. I force a neutral expression and take a seat in the corner, watching him continue as if I were invisible. The perfect metaphor for my 34 years at Timberline. I escape as soon as possible, fleeing to the sanctuary of sawdust and machinery. My phone buzzes again. Vanessa, summoning me to lunch tomorrow. Lovely. The next day, I arrive at Riverfront Bistro 10 minutes early. Vanessa saunters in 20 minutes late, designer sunglasses pushed into hair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Cecily. She air kisses near my cheek. God, you smell like wood chips. Don't you shower between shifts? I bite back the obvious retort about where our paychecks come from and force a smile. What's up, Vanessa? She orders a $60 bottle of wine before addressing me. Daddy wants me to get more familiar with the operational side before the transition. What transition? Vanessa's perfect eyebrows rise fractionally. Don't play dumb, Cece. Daddy always said I'd run the company someday. She tosses her hair back, diamond earrings catching the light. I mean, you're great with the blue-collar stuff, but this is business. Real business. The wine arrives. I don't touch mine. 30%, I say quietly. What? Grandfather's will gives me 30% of voting shares when I turn 35. 6 weeks from now. Vanessa laughs, the sound like breaking glass. Oh, honey, that was conditional on leadership metrics. She leans forward, patting my hand condescendingly. You've been stuck in operations for a decade. The board will never consider you leadership material. Because they've been systematically erasing my contributions. Because every achievement has been stolen from me, credited to others to her. I stand abruptly, my chair scraping against hardwood. We'll see. That afternoon, I make a call I've avoided for 3 years. Kate Lawson answers on the second ring. Cecily Armstrong. Didn't expect to hear from you again. I wince at her tone. I need to talk to you. About what happened. Silence stretches between us. Kate had been our safety manager for 8 years before being fired suddenly for documentation inconsistencies. She'd maintained her innocence, but I'd stayed silent, believing my father's version of events. The roasting company. 4 o'clock, she finally says, then hangs up. The coffee shop sits across town from Timberline property, a deliberate choice. Kate looks older than I remember, silver streaking her auburn hair. Her eyes remain sharp, assessing. Why now? She asks, as I slide into the booth. They're stealing my inheritance. Kate's laugh holds no humor. Welcome to the club. They made you take the blame for their shortcuts, you know? I'm starting to understand that. I hesitate. Kate, I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you. Water under the bridge. She studies me. What do you want from me, Cecily? I take a deep breath. Information, evidence, anything that shows what they've really been doing. Kate stares into her coffee for a long moment, then meets my eyes. When they fired me, I kept copies. Every safety violation I refused to cover up. Every time your father ordered me to falsify reports. She leans forward. OSHA violations, EPA shortcuts, labor law breaches. All of it, Cecily. My heart pounds against my ribs. Why didn't you report them? Your grandfather was good to me. I couldn't destroy his company. Her eyes narrow. But Harold and Vanessa? I owe them nothing. I think about what's at stake. 30% voting control of a company worth millions. My birthright. But also my family, the parents who've consistently undermined me. The sister who expects everything handed to her. Would you be willing to help me? I ask quietly. Kate reaches into her bag, slides a USB drive across the table. I've been waiting 3 years for you to ask that question. The drive feels impossibly heavy in my palm. I close my fingers around it, feeling something shift inside me. A boundary breaking. A line crossed. What are you going to do? Kate asks. I think of my grandfather's will, the company he built, the legacy he entrusted to me, whatever it takes. 3 days later, the company newsletter sits on my desk like a landmine. The glossy paper, emblazoned with Timberline's evergreen logo, announces the future leadership transition in bold letters. My coffee grows cold as I read the article for the 3rd time, each word a deliberate slap. Vanessa Armstrong brings fresh perspective and professional management to position Timberline for the next generation. No mention of my decade of service. No acknowledgement of the operational improvements I've implemented. Just paragraph after paragraph praising Vanessa's MBA, an innovative vision for a company she visits maybe twice a month. I shove the newsletter into my desk drawer, where I keep all the other evidence of my systematic erasure. My phone buzzes with a text from our sales director. Your father and Vanessa just left with the Westridge account. Harold introduced her as the future of Timberline. Thought you should know. Westridge is our biggest client. I negotiated that contract renewal myself last year, spending weekends preparing the sustainability documentation they required. Now Vanessa gets to smile and shake hands while I'm buried in sawdust. The mill whistle blares, signaling the afternoon shift change. I grab my hard hat and head to the floor, forcing my face into neutral. The workers don't need to see my anger. They have enough to worry about with the shortcuts my father insists on taking. Cecily. Miguel calls from the grading station, waving urgently. The new batch from Robert's lot is jamming the head rig. I jog across the concrete floor, the familiar symphony of machinery surrounding me. The massive bandsaw sits silent, operators standing back as Foreman Ben Johnson examines the problem. The automated feed's misaligned again. Ben says, frustration evident. Third time this week. I survey the situation, mentally calculating angles and adjustments. The moisture content's too high in this batch. The scanner's not compensating. I reach for the manual controls, fingers finding the right settings through muscle memory. We need to recalibrate for the higher density, or we'll keep getting jams. Within minutes, I've adjusted the feed rate, blade tension, and angle parameters. The saw hums back to life, smoothly processing logs that had defeated 3 men with decades of experience. Ben gives me a respectful nod. Tried calling your father about this issue last week. He said to follow the standard protocol. Standard protocol doesn't account for old-growth Douglas fir with this moisture profile. I reply, wiping sawdust from my arms. That's why we come to you first now, Miguel says quietly, so only I can hear. You know the wood. You respect it. His words echo my grandfather's so perfectly that my throat tightens. I manage a smile and turn away, suddenly seeing what's been invisible to me until now. These men, the heart of Timberline, they trust me. Not my father, not Vanessa, me. A strange new feeling unfurls in my chest as I walk back to my office. It's not quite confidence, something stronger. Recognition of my own worth, independent of my family's validation. The realization carries me through my mother's stilted family dinner that evening, where she fawns over Vanessa's new summer house while asking me to pass the potatoes. It shields me when Vanessa smirks and mentions, finally bringing professional management to modernize our outdated operations. What exactly do you find outdated? I ask, surprising everyone, including myself, with the direct question. Vanessa blinks, fork pausing halfway to her mouth. Well, you know, everything's so manual. We could automate more, streamline processes. Which processes specifically? My father clears his throat. Cecily, your sister has studied modern business approaches. I'm genuinely curious, I interrupt, voice steady. Which processes at the mill would you automate? What's your approach to varying moisture content in old-growth timber? How would you adjust cutting patterns to maximize yield while maintaining structural integrity? Silence falls across the dining room. Vanessa's mouth opens, then closes. My mother laughs nervously. Goodness, Cecily, this isn't a board meeting. No, I agree, setting down my napkin. It's just the future of our company. Later that night, I meet Kate at her cabin outside of town. The former safety manager was fired 3 years ago, after refusing to falsify inspection reports. My father called it restructuring. Everyone else called it what it was, retaliation. Kate's dining table disappears beneath stacks of documents as we sort through years of violations she documented before her termination. Look at this pattern, she says, pushing her reading glasses up. OSHA violations in the same areas year after year. Your father would fix just enough to pass inspection, then revert back. I trace my finger across a timeline she's created. Environmental shortcuts too. These effluent readings from the treatment pond. Exceed permitted levels by 300% during high production months, Kate finishes. I flagged every single one. And got fired for your trouble, I murmur. Your grandfather would be ashamed of what they've done, Kate says softly. He built Timberline on integrity. He taught us all that responsible forestry meant doing right by the land and the people. Tears spring to my eyes unexpectedly. He trusted me to be strong enough for this. The words hang in the air between us. For the first time, I speak aloud what I've been afraid to acknowledge. This isn't just about my inheritance. It's about honoring my grandfather's vision for Timberline. Kate reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. You don't have to fight them from the inside, you know. What do you mean? I've got 5 acres out here, room for a portable bandsaw mill, small kiln. We could start something new, something honest. And a major, I've got 5 acres out here. My heart thuds at the suggestion. You mean a partnership? Kate's eyes gleam. Armstrong and Lawson Fine Woodworking. We create custom pieces from sustainably harvested timber. I've got the land, you've got the expertise. I can't just abandon Timberline, I say, though the possibility sends an unexpected thrill through me. Not abandoning. Creating leverage. Kate sorts through another pile of documents. If you have options, you negotiate from strength. The next morning, my phone rings with an unfamiliar number. The attorney I contacted yesterday, Marcus Winters, sounds impressed as he reviews my grandfather's will. These KPIs have been met and exceeded for the past 3 years. he confirms. The operation's efficiency metrics, sustainability benchmarks, employee retention rates, you've hit every target. The shares are legally yours, Miss Armstrong. I grip the phone tighter. My father claims I haven't met the leadership requirements. The will doesn't specify leadership in the way they're interpreting it, Marcus explains. It requires operational leadership, which you've clearly demonstrated. Your grandfather was quite specific about measuring outcomes, not titles. After the call, I drive out to my grandfather's favorite stand of old-growth forest. The ancient trees tower overhead, their massive trunks wider than my car. This parcel, which he refused to harvest, stands as his monument. I rest my palm against the rough bark of a Douglas fir that was old when the Declaration of Independence was signed. Above me, sunlight filters through branches that have weathered centuries of storms. The strongest trees weather the harshest storms. My grandfather used to say, his weathered hand patting the trunk just as mine does now. Standing here, surrounded by these quiet giants, clarity washes over me. I've been so focused on what I might lose that I've failed to recognize what I already possess. Knowledge no business school could provide, loyalty from workers who respect skill over titles, and the true understanding of stewardship my grandfather valued above all else. I don't need my family's approval to honor his legacy. That evening, I climb the stairs to my small apartment, bone-tired but resolute. As I set my keys on the counter, my gaze falls on a cardboard box I haven't opened since the funeral. My grandfather's personal effects, which no one else wanted. Something compels me to open it now. Inside, beneath old photographs and a worn flannel shirt that still smells faintly of cedar and pipe tobacco, I find a leather-bound journal I've never seen before. My hands tremble as I open it, recognizing my grandfather's precise handwriting. The journal spans decades, documenting his observations about the business and about his family. Page after page reveals his concerns about my father's shortcuts, his disappointment in Vanessa's disinterest in the craft, his growing certainty that I alone understood what Timberline should be. The final entry, dated just weeks before his death, reads, "Cecily alone has the wisdom to steward this legacy. I've arranged for her to have the means, if she finds the courage. The trees have taught her patience and resilience. Now she must learn to stand tall against the wind." I close the journal, pressing it to my chest as if I could absorb his faith in me. Tomorrow I'll meet with Marcus again. Tonight, I allow myself to feel the anger and determination that will fuel what comes next. I am my grandfather's heir in more than shares. I am the keeper of his vision. And I will not be cut down without a fight. Another week passes by, and during this time I am working with Kate secretly to protect grandfathers and my legacy. One Tuesday morning, I arrive at the mill before dawn, my truck the first in the parking lot as usual. The early morning quiet allows me to think clearly, to move methodically through my plans without interruption. My grandfather's journal sits heavy in my bag, its worn leather cover a reminder of the legacy I'm fighting for. For 2 weeks I've been building my case. Every violation, every stolen idea, every manipulation, all meticulously documented in folders color-coded by severity. Red for safety violations that could shut us down. Blue for labor issues that would trigger investigations. Green for the environmental shortcuts that would horrify our sustainability-conscious clients. Kate's voice echoes in my head as I unlock my office. "They've underestimated you for years, Cecily. Use that." I spread the documents across my desk, each page a weapon in my arsenal. The attorney confirmed yesterday what I already knew: my performance metrics have exceeded the requirements in grandfather's will for 3 consecutive years. Those shares are legally mine. My phone buzzes with a text from Kate. "Got the final inspection reports. Meeting at 4? I type back quickly. "Perfect." Bringing the contract comparisons. Our side business, Armstrong and Lawson Fine Woodworking, has become more than just a safety net. It's become a statement of independence, a declaration that my skills have value beyond these walls. The mill roars to life around me as workers arrive. Miguel knocks on my doorframe, his weathered face serious. "Your father left new cutting instructions," he says, handing me a clipboard. "Makes no sense with what we've got in inventory." I scan the document, immediately spotting the problem. "Ignore these. Follow yesterday's plan." I hand him the correct specifications. "And Miguel?" "Document any pressure to change course." He nods, understanding flowing between us without words. The loyalty of people like Miguel has become my greatest strength, something my father never bothered to cultivate. By mid-morning, the first counterattack arrives. Dad strides onto the production floor, Vanessa trailing behind in inappropriate heels that click against the concrete. She's dressed for a boardroom, not a sawmill, in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Cecily, I need you to turn over operations to Vanessa for the Westlake contract," Dad announces, loud enough for nearby workers to hear. "She'll be handling client relations moving forward." The machines seem to quiet, workers pausing to watch this power play unfold. I notice 3 of them subtly positioning themselves closer, witnesses to whatever happens next. "The Westlake specs require custom cutting patterns." I respond calmly, "I've already programmed the sequence." Vanessa's smile tightens. "I've been briefed on the requirements. Dad thinks it's time I handle more operational oversight." Before I can respond, my phone rings. Westlake's purchasing manager, right on cue. "This is Cecily," I answer, maintaining eye contact with my father. "Cecily, thank goodness," comes Jim Westlake's booming voice, loud enough that Dad can hear. "There's been some confusion. Someone from your office, Vanessa? Tried to discuss our order parameters. We want to be clear. We only want to work with you on this. Your expertise with our custom requirements is why we chose Timberline." I notice Dad's face tightening, the vein in his temple becoming more pronounced. Vanessa shifts uncomfortably. "I understand completely, Jim. I'll personally oversee every aspect of your order, as always." When I hang up, the victory hangs in the air between us. Dad's attempt to sideline me has backfired spectacularly. "Sounds like the client prefers the current arrangement," I say, my voice steady despite the satisfaction coursing through me. "I'll keep you both updated on progress." That evening, the battlefield shifts to Mom's emergency family dinner. The dining room gleams with the good china and crystal, a transparent attempt to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. Vanessa sits in the place of honor beside Dad, her engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. "We have an announcement," Mom says after serving her signature pot roast. "Vanessa will be taking on an expanded leadership role at Timberline. The board approved it this morning." Vanessa beams. "I'll be overseeing all client relationships and financial operations effective next month." Quite the achievement for someone who's never graded timber, I observe, cutting my meat with precise movements. Mom's smile falters. "Some people just aren't ambitious in the traditional sense, dear. You've always been more comfortable with the hands-on aspects." The dismissal stings, but I'm prepared. 10 years of 60-hour weeks building client relationships while maintaining the highest efficiency metrics in company history seems pretty ambitious to me. Dad shifts uncomfortably. "Your contributions in operations have been valuable, Cecily. But Vanessa brings professional management experience that the First National Bank seems very interested in," I interrupt. "Their loan officer called me today. Apparently, they have questions about leadership changes during our renewal period." The silence that follows is delicious. Mom's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. "Why would they call you?" Vanessa demands. "Because I'm the signatory on our operational compliance documents," I reply, the truth I've hidden for years finally serving its purpose. Grandfather insisted on it before he died. Later that night, I meet Kate at our workshop space, a converted barn on her property that smells of fresh-cut pine and possibility. She's organized the safety violations chronologically, creating a damning timeline of negligence. "The board will have no choice once they see this," she says, sliding the file toward me. 3 of the members were your grandfather's friends. They won't let Harold destroy his legacy." I run my fingers along a half-finished rocking chair, the wood smooth beneath my touch. "Dad and Vanessa had another argument tonight. I heard them in the driveway. She's panicking about taking over operations she doesn't understand." Kate smiles. "They're starting to realize just how badly they've miscalculated." I think about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow with grandfather's oldest friend on the board, about the attorney preparing formal challenges to any share transfer, about the loyal employees who've provided statements confirming my critical role. For the first time in years, I feel the tables turning, the power shifting. The future, clarifying. "They thought I was just a worker," I say, running my hand along the grain of the cherry wood. "They never understood that knowing how things actually work is the greatest power of all." On the confrontation day, I adjust my blazer as the elevator climbs to the top floor of Timberline's headquarters. For once, I'm not wearing sawdust-covered jeans, but a charcoal pantsuit I bought specifically for this moment. The weight of the leather portfolio in my hands reminds me of everything at stake. When the doors open, I spot my mother in the hallway outside the boardroom, elegant as always in her pearl earrings and cream blouse. Her eyebrows lift slightly at my appearance. "You didn't need to dress up for a family meeting, Cecily," she says, her voice carrying that familiar hint of criticism. I meet her gaze without flinching. I dressed appropriately for a business discussion. Her lips purse, but before she can respond, my father emerges from his office, Vanessa trailing behind him like a shadow. My sister's designer suit probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. The contrast between us couldn't be more stark, her manicured nails against my hands that no amount of lotion can fully soften. "Let's get this wrapped up quickly," Dad says, not quite meeting my eyes. "I have calls with the Seattle developers at 11. The boardroom feels colder than usual. I take a seat opposite my family, placing my portfolio on the gleaming mahogany table. Their attorney, Mr. Greenfield, sits at my father's right hand, his expression carefully neutral. Dad clears his throat. "We've called this meeting to discuss the future leadership structure of Timberline. As you know, we're entering a critical expansion phase." I watch his hands, the same ones that taught me to tie fishing knots when I was 7, now gesturing dismissively as if I'm a minor inconvenience. "We're transferring 25% of the shares to Vanessa, with 5% allocated to you, Cecily." My mother jumps in, her voice honey-sweet. "Vanessa has the education to lead Timberline into the future. Her MBA gives her the perspective the company needs now." Vanessa's smile doesn't reach her eyes. 10% is more than enough for someone who just works with her hands, Cece. You'll still have input on operational matters. The childhood nickname lands like a slap. I remain still, letting them continue. Dad leans forward, his tone shifting. "We're also considering restructuring the operations department. More delegation would give you time to explore other opportunities." The threat hangs in the air, unmistakable. "Your apartment lease comes up for renewal soon, doesn't it?" Mother asks innocently. "The subsidiary that owns the building is being evaluated for potential sale." Vanessa flips through her tablet. "I've been researching some updated operational approaches. Some of the current methods are rather outdated." My father delivers the final blow. "This is the arrangement we're implementing. You can accept it and continue with Timberline, or you can explore opportunities elsewhere." The silence stretches as they await my capitulation. I've given it to them for years. My silence, my compliance, my swallowed pride. Not today. I open my portfolio and remove a sealed legal envelope, placing it precisely in the center of the table. Grandfather's will is very specific about those shares. My voice comes out steady, stronger than I've ever allowed it to be in this room. The confidence in my father's expression flickers. "I know about the safety violations you've been covering up since 2018. I know about the forged environmental compliance reports. I know about the systematic wage theft from the night shift workers." I lay out each accusation like placing cards in a winning hand. My mother's face drains of color. "What are you talking about?" I remove a sealed letter from my attorney, sliding it toward Mr. Greenfield. "This confirms my legal right to all 30% of the shares, as stipulated in grandfather's will." Next comes a bound report. This documents that all performance KPIs have been met and exceeded for 4 consecutive years. My father reaches for it, but I'm not finished. I place a folder on the table. Signed statements from 17 key employees regarding safety and labor violations. They were instructed to ignore or conceal. 5. Finally, I set down a small USB drive. Here are years of evidence, every falsified report, every covered-up accident, every manipulation of the books. Mr. Greenfield picks up my attorney's letter, scanning it with increasing concern. The OSHA violations alone carry penalties of up to $145,000 per incident. I say, watching my father's face. "I've documented 37 separate violations." My mother gasps. EPA violations regarding improper disposal of chemical treatments could trigger fines exceeding $8 million, plus potential criminal charges. Vanessa's smugness has evaporated, replaced by growing panic. Labor Department investigations into systematic wage theft would result in back payments, penalties, and permanent damage to government contracts. I close my portfolio. My grandfather built this company with integrity. He entrusted me with preserving that legacy because he knew I was the only one who truly cared about the people who work here, not just the profit margins. My father attempts to regain control. We can discuss this reasonably. You have 48 hours to honor the will's provisions, reinstate proper safety protocols, and begin remediation of environmental issues. I interrupt, standing. Or every document goes to the authorities. You wouldn't destroy your own family's company, my mother whispers. I'm trying to save it. I meet each of their eyes in turn. From you. I turn to leave, their stunned silence more satisfying than any shouting match could be. You can't do this, Vanessa finally manages, her voice thin with shock. Mr. Greenfield clears his throat. Actually, based on these documents, she can. He turns to my father. You have no choice but to comply. I pause at the doorway, the weight of 30 years of diminishment falling away with each step. 48 hours. I repeat, and walk out, leaving the family that underestimated me to face the truth I've finally had the courage to speak.